world domination plan map over here. 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon.
Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Beards and Beers. I am Todd Sharp, and with me as always is G.
Good afternoon. How's life going, Todd?
Excellent, no complaints over here. Today we're going to talk about something rather fun, and that is this little thing that I call, in my own little code word for it, is Project Green Thumb. And essentially what it is this little seedling grow station that I built for completely legitimate and all 100% legal crops. And it's basically this little project that I came up with because, honestly, last year during the pandemic, I got kind of bored and I decided that I wanted to make some hot sauce. So I went to the farmer's market, masked up, of course, and socially distanced as appropriate, and bought some very hot peppers. And I fermented them, and I made hot sauce out of them, and I distributed that to some of my friends around the world, actually. I didn't send you some, but I do need to send you some.
That's what I want to say. You do that's Chile, right? You're doing Chile?
Yeah. So this year, I decided that I wanted to do this again, but I wanted to grow everything from seed all the way, up to the plants and ferment them from there. So as I got to thinking about it, I'm like, okay, every time I do something like this, my mind goes to how can I tie this into something geeky and something code related and something work related so I can get paid to actually screw around with things. And so what my mind went to this time was I could do some automation and control the environment that I'm using to grow these seeds. So I built this little project, and what it is this heat mat that goes underneath my seed germination station. And I have a Arduino, an ESP8266 module that's Wi-Fi enabled, and I have various sensors attached to it. So I can do things like keep that soil temperature at a very fixed temperature throughout the day. And I do that by monitoring the temperature with a probe thermometer. And when it gets above a certain threshold, I shut off the outlet that is powering the mat. And then when it drops back down below another threshold, I turn it back on. So I can kind of regulate that temperature throughout the day.
Do you get also humidity and other parameters?
Yep, absolutely. I have it checking the soil temperature with a probe thermometer, the air temperature within the medium itself, the humidity, the water moisture level via a probe sensor that actually is within the soil and measures the soil moisture, the light level, so the actual lux unit of the sunlight in the room, and I think that's it.
Let's get for the people that is watching this episode, how much is the cost to build your own seeding platform?
So it's hard to tell because sometimes I have a lot of these kind of parts laying around the house, but if I were to guess, I would probably say $30 for the hardware, maybe around there. Arduino, Node MCUs are cheap; they're $5. Sensors are probably $3 each. So the mat itself was $13, and the seeds and obviously all that stuff is on top of that, but.
Knowing you, I'm sure that you're not storing that information in your laptop. So you might be using Oracle Cloud for that.
Absolutely.
Are you using the always free tier?
So I'm not, but there's no reason why I couldn't. What I'm using right now is I built, of course, with Micronaut, as always, my favorite Java microservice framework. I built a service. And so what happens on the Arduino itself is all the data gets published every 10 seconds or so up to an MQTT service in the cloud, which that is running in the always free tier. So I have a blog post about setting up RabbitMQ and using that as an MQTT broker in the cloud. So the data gets pushed to the cloud from the Arduino via MQTT. Now, the microservice application, what it does is it consumes from that MQTT queue, and every time it gets a new message, it persists that data to autonomous database in the cloud, and it just takes the JSON, shoves it right into the database, right into a JSON column, which is nice. That way, if I add any more sensors or anything like that, it's completely dynamic. I don't have to worry about adding another column to the database if I add another sensor, because this sensor produces an integer, for example. I don't have to do that. I can just shove the JSON right in the database. No need to worry about the schema, because it makes it easy to pull it back out and query it later on. So I persist it to the database and then push it also in real time via WebSockets to a front end that I have all kinds of nice visualizations, some live charts that in real time update. You could see the temperature updating in real time.
You build your Apex application?
It's not
an Apex app.
It's not an Apex app.
To watch.
But it is a nice little front end that I put on it that you could check out and see these charts.
This is the cool thing, because you had in mind how you deploy the things.
Mm-hmm.
I had in my mind to do it with MySQL, with Apex, to build the whole stuff. Yeah. So there are different ways to reach the same goal.
Well, that's the awesome part, right? That, to me, that dynamic nature of code is what brings me back every day. The fact that I could solve this problem one way and you would solve it another way, and the fact that we can get together and talk about these things and learn from each other and understand that maybe there was a better way to do it is what keeps me going writing code every day, right? Because if I, after 10 years, became really, really good and came up with the best solution every time, life would get pretty boring, right? I mean, there's something I could learn from.
Performance. Yeah. One of the things I was looking for, because I think that you are doing this on your own stuff, but you can build a whole R&D program on how you see it and how you build this. So you can even compare every year how you build that and do the analytics to ensure that why don't we make this, and this is an idea I'm throwing out there, why don't we take this into the agriculture section in the field and make this happen for people that we can help them doing this kind of stuff?
There are some solutions. I mean, there's soil moisture levels. Now, there's a lot of hardware solutions you could buy off the shelf, but again, they don't take that data to the cloud. They don't provide that analytics and all that kind of stuff. So, for people who are interested in that kind of stuff, and, I don't care what you're growing, you always want to see statistics and compare the success of your crop
tomatoes.
To, well, what's the Spanish word for tomatoes?
Tomates.
There you
Tomates,
go. Yeah. Making salsa, right? So, no, of course, the data is the interesting part. And I created some reports. For example, I wanted to see, I had a target based on my research that during the day, the soil should be 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the evening, it should be 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So I wrote my code accordingly so that it looks at the current time of day, and it keeps it around 80 during the day and 70 at night. And I wanted to see how successful that was. So I just wrote this very simple query and grouped by the hour of day. We can visualize these things and see how we're doing against our goal,
How can you measure the growth of that? Because one of the things I would like to see is, based on the temperature and the days it goes, how much is growing on centimeters or inches, depends on that would be cool to understand. Because maybe you can find the pattern when I keep growing my seeds.
Yeah. That would be interesting. It'd be something to look into for sure. But, it was a fun project. And I think at the end of the day, the point of this is it helps me to learn. It helps me to play with this technology, use it to get data to the cloud and do some analysis and spur these kind of conversations, right? There's plenty more we could do with this. There's products out there. My point was I want to build this myself without any external influences and see what happens, So that's what I did, and it was a fun project. And who knows where it'll go next.
Yeah.
So
send it my way. I will make it available in Devo for everybody that is watching, so they can just go see your video, get your code, replicate that, and let's grow things all over the world.
What kind of things, G?
Well, anything that is legal, of course.
Awesome. Well, always great to talk to you, G. And for everybody else, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Take care. Ciao.